I was curious who is the favorite to win the national title after the College Football Playoff Committee came out with their matchups. Ohio State is number one, followed by Indiana. Those are the two top heavies. And then it's Georgia, Oregon, Texas Tech, and then it dips down to Texas A&M. So really you're looking at 5 teams maybe, Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State plus 240, Indiana plus 250, then Georgia 600, Oregon plus 750, Texas Tech plus 800. A&M goes down to plus 1,800. Then it goes Ole Miss, Miami, Alabama, Oklahoma, James Madison, and Tulane. The Notre Dame situation, this will lead to change with the college football playoffs. And, we'll talk a little bit more about this with the Notre Dame athletic director next hour, because there was a report by Ross Dellinger that Notre Dame is guaranteed next year, if they're in the top 12, ranked in the top 12, they will make the playoffs. But that might be a moot point, because I think we're going to blow past 12 teams. We're going to 16 teams. But we'll talk about that with the athletic director at Notre Dame. I don't have any problem with Miami getting in. I have a problem with Miami getting in that they were ranked behind Notre Dame. And if you want to put them in front of Notre Dame a couple of weeks ago, I don't have any problem with that. It just looks weird. It doesn't pass the eye test here. And if you think about it, and you think about, sort of everything that we went through the last couple of weeks, these ranking shows every week on the mothership, that puts the College Football Playoff Committee in a really bad situation, because they're explaining their rationale week in and week out until they get to the point like yesterday where they really had a hard time explaining, okay, so Miami and Notre Dame didn't play, but Miami jumps Notre Dame. And that's, okay, Miami jumps Notre Dame, neither played. Alabama loses to Georgia, really wasn't competitive, and Alabama doesn't move. BYU loses to Texas and drops one spot. So we're just trying to make sense of what is the rationale here. What are the mitigating factors here of why you're putting somebody here, why you're putting somebody there? Somebody goes up, somebody goes down. Those are the things we want to know, what are the rules we're playing by? And it feels like sometimes it's checkers and not chess and vice versa. And I think anybody who's a college football fan just wants to know, what exactly are you factoring in here and not factoring in here? Miami beat Notre Dame. A win in the beginning of the year should count as much as a win at the end of the year. And I don't have any problem with that. But I do have a problem when it doesn't make sense. And I gave you a heads up last week from my college football source. And he talked about, it felt like, and I can give you the information here, but it felt like they were going to set up Notre Dame for disappointment. Now, this is my source saying this, but it feels like they're going to go to 16 teams next year. But, and I had so much information over the weekend with this. Some of it I can tell you, some of it I can't. But, it felt like, in his opinion, Notre Dame was being set up that they were going to be jumped here and not make the college football playoffs. Now, that was last year, okay? He does say the consensus across all conference meetings this week is the college football playoff will be 16 teams by next year. So there's a lot that was going on. And this is from somebody who's around this situation. I don't want to give too many details, but they're around the situation. And they're saying, Alabama and Miami, like, keep an eye on Alabama, was what I was told. That Notre Dame was being, in his opinion, set up to be disappointed. Those are his words. So that's where it gets a little tricky here. And the College Football Playoff Committee, now, I don't know if they love this attention or not. We've talked about it. You want to talk about the sport. You know who I thought about immediately when Notre Dame got left out? Who's the one guy who could benefit from somebody else being the headline in college football? And that's Lane Kiffin. Because I thought, all right, Lane must love this. It's like, anybody talking about me? Didn't show up at College game day. Ole Miss is in the playoffs, but nobody was talking about Lane Kiffin for a day or two because everybody was talking about Notre Dame. I wish Notre Dame would play in a bowl game. I do. And once again, Pete Bavacqua, the athletic director, is coming on, and I want to ask him, why not? Now, they're going to have them play against BYU as the last two out, I guess, bowl game. I think it was the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh.
Yes, I think it was the Pop-Tart
Slap
Bowl.
in the face to Pop-Tarts.
I know. Take that. Yeah, but, there's just, it's a lot of politics here. And yes, have I said before Notre Dame's brand? Yes. That what was surprising. I mean, Georgia blew out Alabama. That was not competitive at all. Now, I got to give Alabama credit. They got to the SEC title game. There's no other conference like the SEC. That's an accomplishment. You were not competitive, and you weren't punished by it. But it comes back to Miami should have been ranked in front of Notre Dame. If you really felt that way, then put them there. And put them there a month earlier. And I don't think anybody has a problem because it was head-to-head. I'm fine with that. It's just where you go. Things that make you go, And I had a few of those this past weekend. And then you get a spokesperson on there who's trying to explain it. And I feel bad. You got one person out there taking the slings and arrows. He's Custer, and they're firing. Those arrows are hurting. But college football, you get through this, and then we're going to have great games. It shouldn't be lost on anybody what Indiana accomplished this year. Indiana is the losingest college football program in history. They have the number one team in the country, and they are going to have the Heisman Trophy winner. If you're over the age of 40, just let that sink in. That's incredible. It's incredible. You beat Ohio State. You're the number one team in the country. And Curt Cignetti, in 2 years, accomplished the impossible. And I hope that people don't lose sight of that. Now, they're probably not looking at Indiana going, they're going to win a national title. Look, you beat Oregon at Oregon, you got my attention. You beat Ohio State on a neutral site for the Big Ten title in a tough, who's going to break first, great defensive game. Those are the kind of games that you go, Ohio State wins these games. They have so much talent. I think they're better or thought they were better than last year's team. Give credit to Indiana. We wondered this year, coming into the season, Marvin goes, who do you think is this year's Indiana? And then we realized it's Indiana is in this year's Indiana. But pretty amazing. That story should not be lost with everything else that's happened with Lane Kiffin and certainly Notre Dame getting kicked to the curb.